Today's subject is a woman who defied every label Hollywood tried to pin on her. From sitcom sweetheart to Oscar-winning powerhouse, Sally Field built a career on resilience, not just on screen, but at home. She won 2 Academy Awards, broke barriers for women in film, and became a symbol of emotional truth in American cinema. She's an icon whose talent lit up the screen in Norma Rae, Steel Magnolias, and Forrest Gump. But behind the accolades, the red carpets, and 2 Academy Awards, Sally Field's most defining role has always been off-screen, not as a star, but as a mother. While the world applauded her performances, she poured her energy into raising 3 sons, Peter, Eli, and Sam, each one carving a unique path shaped not by fame, but by her fierce love and quiet resilience. Today, we uncover the deeply personal story of how Sally balanced a skyrocketing career with the weight of single motherhood. Long before Hollywood embraced that narrative, she became a mother in her early 20s, right as The Flying Nun turned her into a household name. In those chaotic early years, she wasn't just chasing scripts, she was chasing stability. "I couldn't give up," she once reflected. "I had mouths to feed." Her sons were her reason, her reset, and her redemption. In later years, as she stood on stages accepting Lifetime Achievement Awards, Sally didn't list her filmography. She named her boys: Peter, the thoughtful writer; Eli, the adventurous filmmaker; and Sam, the honest heart of the family. "They're the kindest, most loving human beings I know," she said. For Sally Field, motherhood wasn't a detour from greatness. It was the very thing that anchored it. Peter Craig was born in November 1969 during a storm of personal and professional upheaval for his mother. Sally Field was just 23, newly divorced, and still stuck in the shadow of roles like The Flying Nun. Roles that made her famous, but not respected. From the very beginning, Peter's world was split between home and Hollywood. While most toddlers spent their early years in quiet suburban routines, Peter spent his in the orbit of sound stages and trailers, watching his mother memorize lines between diaper changes and studio calls. By the late 1970s, when Sally stunned the industry with her Emmy-winning turn in Sybil, and then won her first Oscar for Norma Rae in 1979, Peter was in grade school, just old enough to understand that his mother wasn't like other moms, and that her strength came at a cost. She was often gone, but never distant. She showed up to parent-teacher meetings in jeans and sunglasses after overnight shoots, and she never let the glitz distract her from what mattered: raising her sons to be honest, grounded, and independent. In the 1980s, while Sally was climbing toward a second Oscar with Places in the Heart, Peter was becoming increasingly drawn to storytelling, not through acting, but through language. He read obsessively and began writing fiction as a teenager, inspired less by fame and more by the emotional depth he'd watched his mother channel on screen and at home. But here's the twist. When Peter began publishing novels in the late 1990s and later transitioned to screenwriting, he deliberately kept his identity low profile. He rarely mentioned his mother in interviews, and for years refused to walk red carpets with her. Even as he broke through with acclaimed scripts like The Town, 2010, The Hunger Games, Mockingjay, 2014-15, and Top Gun, Maverick, 2022, Peter insisted on earning every credit on merit. "I didn't want anyone to think it was because of her," he once said. It wasn't about rejecting his mother. It was about honoring the very ethics she taught him. Never expect a handout, especially from the industry that made her fight for every role. Today, Peter is one of Hollywood's most sought-after screenwriters, not just for his technical skill, but for his ability to write characters with depth, silence, and struggle. And it's no coincidence. He grew up watching his mother build a career out of emotional honesty, not celebrity. In every phase of his life, from boyhood behind the camera to fatherhood and creative leadership, Peter Craig's journey reflects the very legacy Sally Field fought to leave him. Not one of fame, but of grit, privacy, and relentless purpose. Eli Craig was born in May 1972, just as Sally Field was beginning to claw her way out of the comedic box that had defined her early fame. Unlike his older brother Peter, who had witnessed their mother's early years of professional rejection, Eli entered the picture as Sally was preparing to take her biggest dramatic leap. The Emmy-winning transformation in Sybil was just 4 years away. As a child, Eli grew up in Malibu, surrounded by nature more than film sets. While Sally balanced back-to-back roles and a second Academy Award for Places in the Heart, 1984, Eli was off climbing trees, collecting bugs, and quietly forging a personality that leaned toward physicality and independence. He wasn't interested in acting or scripts. He was drawn to wildness. And during his teens and early 20s, while the rest of his family remained close to the industry, Eli took a different path entirely. After high school, Eli left Los Angeles almost completely. He spent much of the 1990s working as a wilderness guide, mountaineering across the Pacific Northwest and the Himalayas, and leading outward-bound expeditions. At a time when Sally was cementing her place in Hollywood royalty, her middle son was sleeping under the stars and teaching strangers how to survive in the wild. Friends assumed he'd never return to entertainment, but in the early 2000s, Eli made a quiet, unexpected pivot, not as an actor, but as a director. He enrolled in film programs, studied genre structure, and began crafting stories that blended horror with humor, absurdity with affection. His directorial debut, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, 2010, flipped slasher tropes upside down and became a cult hit, not because of name recognition, but because it was smart, funny, and surprisingly heartfelt. That same tone carried into Little Evil, 2017, a Netflix original that confirmed his unique voice in genre filmmaking. But here's the twist. Eli never publicly leaned on his mother's fame, not even when directing her. In a 2007 episode of Brothers and Sisters, Eli stepped behind the camera with Sally in front of it. The experience, he said, was less about a family moment and more about professionalism. She never pulled rank. He never asked for credit. She always gave us room, he later reflected, but she never let us forget she believed in us. Today, Eli is a respected filmmaker, husband and father of two, someone who carved out a career completely different from the one he was born into. Yet the values that shaped his path, humor under pressure, independence without rebellion, and quiet mastery, all trace back to watching his mother build her empire, not with noise, but with nerve. Samuel Sam Greisman was born in December 1987, the youngest of Sally Field's three sons, and the only one raised entirely after her rise to stardom. By then, Sally had already won 2 Academy Awards, survived the chaos of typecasting, and emerged as one of the most respected actresses in the country. But in private, her life was entering a quieter, more personal chapter. Sam was born from her second marriage to producer Eli Greisman, a union that offered brief stability before ending in divorce when Sam was still a young boy. Unlike his brothers who saw their mother climb, fight, and reinvent, Sam was raised inside the legacy she had already built. But that didn't make his path easier. In many ways, it made it more complicated. Growing up in the 1990s, Sam lived in a house filled with awards, scripts, and decades of public affection for his mother. But his focus was never on cameras. He was observant, sensitive, deeply introspective, a boy more drawn to words than performance. By his teenage years, Sam knew he was gay, but didn't come out until college. Sally's reaction wasn't just supportive, it was transformative. She didn't just love him. She used her voice to become one of Hollywood's most outspoken LGBTQ+ allies, often citing Sam as the reason she joined the fight. In 2012, Sam introduced his mother at the Human Rights Campaign Gala, where she called him the greatest privilege of my life. And that love wasn't performative. It was lived. In interviews, Sam has spoken about the comfort of being raised by someone who never asked him to hide, someone who made him feel seen before he even saw himself clearly. As a young adult, Sam studied writing and filmmaking at Vassar College and began working behind the scenes in indie projects and short-form essays. But here's the twist. While many expected him to leverage his last name, Sam often felt the opposite, that being Sally Field's son came with expectations he never asked for. In queer spaces, in professional circles, He was sometimes met with assumptions before introductions. People feel like they already know you, he once said, even when they don't. That tension shaped his voice, candid, self-aware, and quietly funny. In 2018, he made headlines when Sally tried to set him up with Olympic skater Adam Rippon via Twitter, a gesture that felt more maternal than media-driven, both cringeworthy and beautiful at once. It went viral, of course, but what lingered was the tenderness behind it. A mother who would do anything, even risk public embarrassment, to bring joy to her son. Today, Sam lives in New York, quietly creating, writing, and advocating. He doesn't crave visibility, he values truth. And through every stage of his life, from childhood surrounded by fame to adulthood grounded in identity, he has remained exactly what Sally Field once called him, the softest part of her. Her career gave her a platform, but Sam gave her purpose. 3 sons. None of them clung to the spotlight. None of them chased her legacy or tried to outshine her shadow. Instead, Peter, Eli, and Sam each stepped into their own world. One with pen, one with camera, one with voice, shaped by a mother who gave them freedom, but never let go. Her strength taught them discipline, her tenderness taught them courage, and her survival taught them how to begin again. If you found this breakdown powerful and want more deep dives into the hidden lives of Hollywood's forgotten children, subscribe to Legacy Uncovered. Your support brings these invisible stories to light. Thanks for listening.